Translation. The Brahman descendants of Bhrigu, being very pleased with their disciple, who had conquered the entire universe, now engaged him in performing 100 Ashvamedha sacrifices. In purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We have seen in the dispute between Maharaj Prithu and Indra that when Maharaj Prithu wanted to perform 100 Ashvamedha yajnas, Indra wanted to impede him, for it is because of such great sacrifices that Indra was made king of heaven. Here the Brahman descendants of Bhrigu decided that although Maharaj Bali was situated on the throne of Indra, he would not be able to stay there unless he performed such sacrifices. Therefore they advised Maharaj Bali to perform at least as many Ashvamedha yajnas as Indra. The word Ayajayan indicates that all the Brahmins induced Bali Maharaj to perform such sacrifices. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Svabadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishvari Rishavanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is a very instructive part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in that the whole pastime of where Bali Maharaj is defeated and then re-establishes himself and comes to attack the kingdom of heaven, and then the subsequent appearance of Vamana Dev, and then Bali Maharaj's defeat or seeming defeat. There are many things we can learn. And in this particular verse, it's talking about specifically sacrifice. Now, this is what everybody's after in this world. Everybody wants to be successful. And so Bali Maharaj, he was like killed. he was defeated by the demigods, and he lost his life, but his spiritual master was so powerful that he brought him back to life. And then he told him that you should perform one particular yajna, and by this yajna you will be able to get the power and weapons in order to go back and defeat Indra. And so this is what Bali Maharaj did. And so he had to perform a sacrifice. Maharaj Yudhisthira said that this body is meant for others. It's not meant for us. It's meant for sacrifice. It's meant for giving. Or should I say, sacrifice means to make sacred. Everything we do, if we perform as a sacrifice, then we can purify it, in other words. And then this helps us to progress in life. And so this is, even in material terms, people are sacrificing so much. in material life are people not sacrificing. But the material energy is making them think that they're doing what they want to do. They understand they're working hard, but they don't know the science behind it. They think this is life. This is all we have to do. We have to work hard for tomorrow we die. Is it? Or is it enjoy now for tomorrow we die? This is the philosophy of the atheists. There's three atheistic philosophies. One is Buddhism. They don't follow the Vedas. And in the East, they don't accept anybody who doesn't follow the Vedas. Everybody has to follow the Vedas. It's accepted as law. And then what's the next one? The Jains. They're also considered atheist. And the last one is Chauravak Muni. Whatever you do, get ghee. Because if we get ghee, people wouldn't understand in this age what we're talking about, get ghee. But it's the same principle, is that we can enjoy life if we eat nicely. So don't think about tomorrow, just make sure you've got nice things to eat today. And the way we make things nice to eat is by cooking ghee. And so people are bewildered by the illusory energy into thinking that they're in charge of the situation. We don't have to perform sacrifice. But from the word go, right from coming out of the womb, it's sacrifice. Can anybody tell me a time when we don't have to sacrifice? Is there any gaps? Sometimes we may think there's a gap. When we get the result of our activity, then we think, no more sacrifice. And so this is Bali Maharaj. He's got the results of his hard work and penance. But what's the first thing the Brahmins say to him? Perform sacrifice. Because if we don't sacrifice, then we lose everything. The material world's made like that. The spiritual world, no sacrifice. Everything's enjoying. But material world means anything you want, you have to sacrifice. Why? What's the reason? Because we are thinking we're the enjoyers. And Bhagavad Gita tells us when we think we're the enjoyer, automatically we become responsible for the results. So we have to put all the work into it. So there are different kinds of sacrifice. What people are sacrificing. Prabhupada gives the example of when we get the electricity, but we have to pay the bill. So we have to find some means of we have to sacrifice to pay for the light we have. Anything else? All the different amenities we have in the home. So life is an opportunity to engage that sacrifice in something beneficial. And Bhagavad Gita starts to tell us about sacrifice in the very beginning, in the 3rd chapter. It says from the very beginning, Yagnathat kamano nyatra loko yam kama bandhana tadartham karma kuntya mukta sangha samachara. In other words, work done for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise that work causes bondage in this material world. So most people, they're sacrificing in this world, but they don't understand that principle. So everything, in Bhagavad Gita it says in the 17th chapter, what's the situation of a person who, he knows what he should do, but he doesn't. He knows he should perform sacrifice, but he doesn't perform sacrifice. And Krishna answers the question, he says actually it's conducted by the modes of nature only. And by those modes of nature, they'll take him to one situation to another situation. There's no relief. It says, in the end of that particular chapter, it says that Yashashra vidim usricha vartate kama karata na sasidim avapnote na sukham na paramgatim. It says, unless one follows the Shastra, then he doesn't achieve, what is it? Na sukham na param. He doesn't achieve happiness, sukham. Paramgatim, the supreme destination. And what's the other one? Shastra vidim usricha vartate karma karata. He doesn't achieve any good results. So therefore, tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te, Karyakara Vyavastito. Therefore all activities should be formed according to Shastra. So one who neglects to follow Shastra, then it says it's a useless waste of time. Because when we perform any sacrifice, it says in that chapter, we say the words, whatever sacrifice it is, what are them 3 words? Om Tat Sat. And this connects it with Krishna. And this makes that sacrifice useless. Even Jiva Goswami in his Sandarbhas is talking about the different levels of bhakti. He says even if a person doesn't follow the Shastra and performs some work, if he gives the result to Krishna, it's considered a sacrifice and he gets benefited. It's a form of bhakti yoga. But if a person is learned in so many different fields of activity and he forgets to offer the result to Krishna, then there's no benefit. So this is the beauty about devotional service, that anybody can perform it. This is why the key verse in the Bhagavad Gita, what's it say? Patram pushpam palam tayam yome bhakta priyachati tadham bhakti uparitam ashname priyata atmanaha. That if we offer something to Krishna, then we benefit. Therefore Krishna says all that we do should be for the benefit of the Lord. And what is Krishna looking for? He's looking for the devotion. And so we follow Shastra. And people are following different kinds of Shastra. So Jiva Goswami, he was one of the Goswamis, and they were all given the go ahead to write the Shastras. Lord Chaitanya wanted, one of the things he wanted to do was to Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipano, that read the Shastras, scrutinize and study them, and come up with the essence. And so this is what they did. And Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami are known as the prominent writers of the Vaishnava Shastras. But Jiva Goswami has a special place in that he confirmed that this is why these Shastras we should follow. And this is what he does in the Sandarbhas, the Sat Sandarbhas. It's solely to establish that we are following the right process. There are so many arguments by impersonalists and others that it's this way or it's that way, it's this Shastra. And so if he, tooth and nail, he goes all the way through, leaving no stone unturned. And he proves first, Tattva Sandarbha, that Krishna, that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the ultimate Shastra. Then in the Bhagavat Sandarbha, he proves that of the 3 understandings of the Absolute Truth, what are those 3? Brahmati, Paramatmati, Bhagavaniti, Shabdite. That in Sanskrit wordology, they put the most important thing last. So Bhagavan's the support of Brahman and Paramatma. So he discusses the qualities of Bhagavan. Why Bhagavan is termed as the Supreme Person, or the Absolute Truth. And then he goes on to Paramatma Sandarbha. There's a material world also. How is this material world functioning? Mayata tamidam sarvam jagata vyakta murtina matstani sarvabhutani nacham teshu avasti. I'm situated in my own manifested form in this material world. But I'm not there also, he says in the next verse. Although I am everywhere, I'm not situated there. Wait a minute. You just said you're situated there. So this is where Paramatma Sandarbha comes in. The Lord situated as Paramatma in the 3 Vishnus. One is for the creation, Maha Vishnu, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu for the universe, and Shirodakashaya Vishnu for all in the heart of every living entity, in the atoms, in between the atoms, everywhere. And then he goes on to the Krishna Sandarbha. Who is Bhagavan? Swayam Bhagavan. Who's the original Bhagavan? And so from Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures, he proves that actually Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. And that's this line itself, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. all right, I accept it. But the impersonalists, and so many people won't, because they juggle with the Shastra. And so he spends pages and pages on this particular verse, showing from every direction how Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam. And then this is all this is in the scope of Sambandha, trying to understand the process and who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Jiva Goswami is a very prominent writer. Then he goes on to Abhideya. He goes on to after the Bhakti Sandarbha. What is the process of attaining that? Abhideya, the process of attaining Krishna. And then finally he goes on to the Priti Sandarbha, or what is the goal? So this is a very interesting, so he sacrificed his time in writing this. He sacrificed his time so that when we perform a sacrifice in this material world, we know which book to follow. We know what process to take. We know what we're looking for. So many sacrifices being performed, people don't really know what they're trying to obtain. And if they do, it's usually the wrong thing. So I just thought I'd explain about our sacrifice should be with knowledge, and that our acharyas have made sure that there's no dearth of knowledge. In this age, there's so many Vedas. I think originally 1,013, I think, or 31, something like that. Eh? 1131. 1100. Are you sure? 1131. And then now there's only 20. He says, and if we had lived for a lifetime, we wouldn't get through them. And so this is why the Lord asked the Goswamis to go through the Shastras and get the essence. And now there's only Vaishnav and Vaishnav Shastras. He Kali Kali Ada Kahir no Konadam. Vaishnava Shastri Ekahimam. And so we know what the Shastra to follow is in order to perform the correct sacrifice. Coming back to this verse a little more. So Bali Maharaj, he performed sacrifice to get his ability, and then when he got what he wanted, he had to perform sacrifice. And then Indra was bewildered. He thought, look at the power of Bali Maharaj. What are we going to do? So what did he do? He approached Brihaspati. And what did Brihaspati tell him to do? He said, don't even try to fight at this moment in time. He said you should take shelter out of Bali Maharaj's way, and then at a proper moment, then you can try to defeat him. Aditi, she became, after some time, we'll read later on, Aditi was thinking, it's not right that these demons have got my lads. She's the mother of the demigods. She was thinking that her sons should be back in the post. Why should they be actually taking shelter like this? And she was extremely angry. And so she approached Kasyapa Muni and said, what are you going to do about it? And Kasyapa Muni said, look, Shri Radha Gokulananda Ki Jai. And Kasyapa Muni, he saw things from a philosophical point. He said, what can I do about it? He says, this is the law of karma. Sometimes we're situated in a good situation and sometimes we're not. We have to wait our time. Just wait, and in due course of times things will turn round. And Aditi, she wasn't having it. She said, what are you going to do now? Don't just sit there, do something. And so Kasyapa said, okay then. And he gave her a second benediction. He gave her a second instruction. He said, now you should perform sacrifice. She either sacrificed biting her tongue and controlling her mind, or if not, maybe sometimes the spiritual master has to give us a lesser one. I know this person won't follow the instruction which will do him really good, so let me give him another one. So she gave Aditi, he gave Aditi a second instruction to perform a Payavrata sacrifice. But they all had a goal, didn't they? They all knew what they wanted to achieve. Bali Maharaj was certain, I know what my goal is. Aditi, I know what my goal is, to achieve the heavenly planets back. Indra, I have to protect myself. I have to protect the heavenly planets. But at the moment I can't do that. So they all worked out a particular way, a way of following. I think they call it strategy, is it? They had a strategy. The normal thing to do is to fight back. But don't take the enemy face on. But later on when the results of his sacrifice have been, when he's diminished in power, then we can try to defeat him. Anyway, the Shastra is full of different types of sacrifice. Any more sacrifices? Swayambhuva Manu. Every day was a sacrifice. He's the lawmaker for mankind. He's very, very powerful. Every day in the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it tells you his daily activities, his daily sacrifices. When he wakes up in the morning, he wakes up to the sound of the veena and his attendants chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. And then, he goes through a morning program, and then he starts his business. And in the evening, he has the evening raga, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So even the lawmaker for mankind, he has to follow the law. If he wants to maintain his post as Swayambhuva Manu, I'm not sure that he does actually, very responsible post, and then we have to perform sacrifice. So in a devotee's life, this is the point, is that we try to avoid sacrifice because it's painful. But we can't avoid sacrifice. If we don't sacrifice for Krishna, we sacrifice for some other cause. This is what Krishna told Arjuna in the battle of Kurukshetra. If you don't do your duty now and sacrifice for this cause which I'm telling you to sacrifice for, then you'll act anyway and you won't get anything. And so a devotee has to have that vision that the material energy will tell us that just round the corner is a life of bliss without sacrifice. We shall conquer. We shall overcome everything, and then we'll be in charge, as Dayananda Maharaj was saying the other day. We'll be God. It's just like there are so many. Just look at our situation in this material world. We've got even if we have a fit body, the modern day doctors and physicians and scientists, they're convinced that at some point they'll overcome diseases and we'll be able to live longer. We're already living longer, they say. That's what they say anyway. We'll be able to live longer, and then eventually we'll overcome death. And everybody's like, yeah, one day. I hope it's within my lifetime. And so, but they don't realise that if they just look into it a little bit closer, what's the thing that's keeping us from becoming ill? What's the main thing? Endurance, our immune system. There's millions and millions of diseases we've never even discovered yet, just waiting to attack this body. And it's all in the Bhagavatam. Has anybody read the Bhagavatam? The section where the soldiers of Kalyavana, is it? They're attacking the body of Puranjan. The serpent is becoming weak. And then all these diseases and enemies are there. They're just waiting for the resistance to go below a certain level, and then we're finished. This is our situation in this world. And yet we're going to sacrifice for, obtaining something which is going to last forever, we think. That's what the mind is telling us. So we have to see that all these devotees in the Srimad Bhagavatam, they're performing some kind of sacrifice under the order of their authorities. Brihaspati is giving his advice to Indra. The Brahmins are giving their advice to Bali Maharaj. Kashyapa Muni is giving advice to Aditi. And so this is what life is meant for, is for taking advice how to sacrifice our time in such a way that we make spiritual progress. I was listening to on tape by Tejas Prabhu. He was very much in charge of, I don't know whether he's in charge now, but he was very prominent, I don't know whether he still is, he's become ill, of self-sufficiency. And on this tape he was saying, Prabhupada said that there are two main things that we have to establish in this world. He said the Sankirtan Yajna and self-sufficiency. Why the Sankirtan Yajna? Because how do we know what the subject matter of a literature is, or of a chapter? If we want to know what the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam is, what do? So we look at the first verse and the concluding verse, and we'll find that the essence of all the Srimad Bhagavatam is there. And the first verse is all about Krishna, establishing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the last verse is all about Hari, Krishna. It says, by offering obeisance to the Supreme Lord and chanting His holy name, we become freed from suffering and we make spiritual progress back to Godhead. And so the process is Sankirtan established in the last verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, of obtaining the Supreme. And then the second one, I was thinking that why did it, I mean, you don't quote me on this because I'm just listening from a tape, but he said that to become self-sufficient. And actually one of the main verses in the Bhagavad Gita, it's saying, Anad Bhavanti Bhutani, or is it? Prayanyat Anasambhava. Yagya Bhavati Prayanyo, Yagya Bhava Samudbhavaha. He's saying that all living entities subsist on grains. Grains are born from rains. Rains are born from sacrifice, and sacrifices from prescribed duties. So that's so these two processes are established. So Sankirtan Yajna is a sacrifice, and self-sufficiency is also depending on the mercy of the Supreme Lord by performing the appropriate sacrifice. Even Srila Prabhupada, we see that sometimes we get into performing activities before we really think. Has anybody had that experience? The mode of passion is very strong in them, in activity. And sometimes we do things without really working it out. But Prabhupada, he had 40 years where he was performing his work at home. He was a chemist. And he eventually compiled the 7 purposes of ISKCON. He did a lot of research into what he wanted to achieve before he put his effort in, or his sacrifice. So, as devotees, if we want to make our sacrifice in devotional service successful, both as an individual and also as a temple or as a movement, then contemplation has to be there. Prabhupada said that we should be cooperative. Love for me will be shown how we cooperate. What were the other 2 things he said? Organization and intelligence. And so this is very much on the meditative platform. Every morning we come into Srimad Bhagavatam class and we understand what we're coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class for. What's the purpose of coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class? To clean the heart. Any advances on that one? It is to clean the heart, actually. We've been reminded of what we're trying to achieve. We're reminded of the process of achieving it, what we have to do. And so, Bhagavatam class individually is that's our main purpose. The main purpose of process of devotional service is to hear. He says if we can just hear, then we can achieve perfection. And yet, when we are interacting to perform devotional service, do we spend enough time hearing one another, discussing what we're doing, working it out, organising, intelligence? The same thing's there. Time spent there means that we can actually make sure that we're doing the right thing. We can perform the right sacrifice. So I just thought I'd mention that we use Prabhupada's, we follow Prabhupada's instructions that in order to cooperate properly, we have to have organisation and intelligence. So communication is very important. Does anybody remember the Crimean War? Crimean War. No, well, you won't remember it, but you've probably seen it on the television. When I was a young lad, there was the Charge of the Light Brigade. Has anybody seen that? Very old film. And why did it says that 600 horsemen, what they call them, cavalry, they went into a situation which they would never be able to get out of. There were cannons all the way around this valley, and they just went into the middle of it and they were blown to bits. Why? Communication. There was miscommunication. So communication is very important if we want to make any progress. Okay, so we'll stop there.